the session Middle and Upper Kuskokwim River Water Quality Monitoring Project. And this is a panel, and we are very excited to be welcoming Mahri Lowinger. With that, we're going to turn it over to Mahri because I think she's going to introduce everyone else on the panel. Mahri Lowinger, if you can unmute your computer, then the floor is yours.
Thank you, Maka. Good morning, everyone. Just checking in to make sure, can you guys hear and see me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So thank you for having us today. As Maka shared, my name is Mahri Lowinger. I work for EPA Region 10 in the Alaska Operations Office here in Anchorage. And I work as a tribal coordinator with the tribes along the Kuskokwim River and Nelson Island regions of Alaska. And I also work with them all on their IGAP grants. And I am really excited to be here today and share this session with you guys because it is the first time that we are rolling out this project and sharing information with you. So this morning's session on our Middle and Upper Kuskokwim Water Quality Assessment Project, I'm going to be sharing some background information on the project, its goals, our motivations and preliminary findings. And then a few of the tribal participants are going to be sharing their perspectives on the importance of the river, their experiences with water quality monitoring, and their hopes for water quality assessment efforts. So today I am joined by Sam Bundy with the Native Village of Georgetown, Dan Gillikin from the Native Village of Napaimute, and Teresa Hansen with Telida Village. And with that, I'm going to get my presentation rolling here. There we go. All right, so for those of you that are not from Alaska, to give you a little bit of background, the Kuskokwim River is located in southwest and interior parts of Alaska. It is the second largest drainage in Alaska, and it's also the longest free-flowing river in Alaska. So I've been working with the tribes in this region for a long time, probably close to 15 years now. And around the time I first started working with the tribes in the area, several started expressing an interest in establishing baseline conditions for the Kuskokwim River and its water quality, and an interest in using their IGAP grants to fund that work. Their interests were fueled by concerns over solid and human waste impacts, contaminants from past abandoned mining operations, and concerns over future mining and resource development impacts. So several of the tribes began developing and got quality assurance project plans, or QAPPs, approved by the EPA to start developing this baseline and data gathering. So the tribes listed here from the area began some of these efforts with different parameters, different monitoring frequency, training, different supplies, and different lab analysis. Some of the tribes started this effort over 10 years ago and are continuing to this day, while others did it for shorter time periods. The Native Village of Georgetown is among those that's been gathering water quality data on the Kuskokwim for about 10 years. And in addition to them collecting data from their own sampling sites, they've been collaborating with area tribes to take each of the tribe's data and enter it into their own database. And then a couple years ago, they took that data and entered it into EPA's Water Quality Exchange database, which is also known as WQX, and some of you may have known it in past years as the STORET database. By using the Water Quality Exchange database, EPA and partner organizations can access water quality data records from different sources from federal agencies, states, tribes, and other partners. So similarly, around 2018, when Georgetown entered the data into WQX. They had also published an ESRI award-winning story map. This is a screenshot of it up here that highlights regional water quality data and background on the region. And for those of you that will see this presentation afterwards, there's a link to that story map there. So if you're interested in learning more, you should be able to check it out later. It's pretty cool. And you're going to hear more from Sam from the Native Village of Georgetown about their efforts in just a couple minutes here. So in the summer of 2018, how we started collaborating is that there were a few days where the Kuskokwim River itself experienced water temperatures exceeding 70 degrees, which was unprecedented. Interestingly, within a few weeks of each other, staff from the villages of Aniak, Native Village of Napaimute, and the Native Village of Georgetown all came to me and said, hey, we've been gathering this data for like 10 years, and we're concerned about these high temperature days. What is all this baseline data that we've been gathering telling us? Is there a way we can get an analysis done to know more about it? So we agreed to meet and discuss the issue and look for support for an actual data analysis. And as a group, we came to agreement on several interests. One was measuring water temperatures affecting salmon productivity. Another was food security, ecological function, and potential impacts from development. Another interest is developing a standardized methodology and an analysis of the data and tracking changes and trends. And we continued to hold meetings, and a cohesive team formed with the following members that you see on the screen, and you're going to be hearing from a few of those folks this morning. And as we were meeting, having slightly different intentions, we decided to go through a project planning process to identify priorities and direction. And we identified the following top priorities: water quality, climate change, contaminants, turbidity, and water flow or discharge. And each of these are important to all the participating tribes as they relate to the impacts to subsistence. We also began working with Chris Zell from EPA Region 10's Applied Sciences Division. And he worked with us to look at the data in the WQX database and created a couple of spreadsheets of preliminary results based on that tribal data, demonstrating temperature and potential impacts to Samana development. He also developed a spreadsheet in response to a request from Telida Village to do an analysis of turbidity due to their concerns over drinking water. So this is a quick screenshot here of some of this preliminary data. At this point it is preliminary, that demonstrates temperature and potential impacts to Samanids, because as I mentioned, one of those top priorities for the group is the water temperature and the impact to subsistence. And this is just a quick screenshot here of the turbidity data that was produced for Telida. And then some potential next steps that we're looking at, since this data is preliminary, is identifying which of the water quality monitoring sites host Samanid communities and what months of the year that certain life stages occur at each site, so that we can compare the temperature measurements with water quality criteria. The team is also really interested in developing a story map or another similar document that demonstrates the data. We're also considering inviting other tribes and partner organizations to work with us on this effort and looking at refining the assessment and identifying future goals. And there may be additional options for future directions, but at this point it's preliminary data, but we really wanted to make you aware of the effort and the potential for future engagement and awareness. So from here, I'm going to hand the baton off to my colleague, Sam Bundy with the Native Village of Georgetown.
Hello. Thank you for the introduction, Mahri. Can you guys hear me? Okay, cool. Excellent. All right, so I am the environmental coordinator for the Native Village of Georgetown, and like Mahri stated, we have been running a water quality sampling program since 2008. And our water quality program has been in part to provide a public record of water quality in the Middle Kuskokwim, not just for Georgetown, but we have a metals focus and drinking water focus in our water quality program, as we are just downstream of the abandoned Red Devil mine. And also there is quite a heavy, heavily mineralized, the area itself is heavily mineralized with lots of metals. So that we've been building this record of environmental health for the past 10 years or so already. And in light of recent events with climate, in light of recent climate impacts that the Kuskokwim has been experiencing already, Georgetown has started a Middle Kuskokwim adaptation climate planning session so that we can begin to start adapting to these issues, identifying what these climate impacts are going to be in the future and start adapting to them. And more on that is going to be Dan Gillikin here. My colleague is much more qualified to talk about that, and I'm going to go ahead and pass the time off to him.
Okay, thank you very much, Sam and Mahri. Good morning, folks. My name is Dan Gillikin, and I'm the Environmental Director for the Native Village in Napaimute. The village of Napaimute is located about 30 miles upriver from Antioch along the banks of the Kuskokwim River. It was federally recognized as an Alaska Native tribe in 1994. The name Napaimute is Yupik for forest people. Currently, the village is seasonally occupied, but at its peak, Napaimute was a bustling place serving the Middle Kuskokwim region with a trading post, post office, school, and it had about 100 full-time residents. However, after trapping and mining activity declined and the steamboats discontinued operation, residents were forced to relocate to find other employment. Most families relocated to neighboring villages up and down the Kuskokwim River, but they have continued to keep their ties to the village and their culture over these many years. Next slide, please, Mark. Today, our tribal members number about 200, with about 40% of them being under the age of 18. Although no longer a commercial hub, Napaimute has approximately 25 home sites that are used seasonally for subsistence and cultural activities. Many tribal members return every season to their ancestral home to reconnect with the land and pass their knowledge on to the next generation. The tribal members and the traditional council all recognize that the sustainability of a subsistence way of life is fragile and under threat from a variety of sources. To address these threats, the Council and EPA have revised the Tribal Environmental Plan that will help guide future actions and programs that will focus on solutions to the priority issues that they have identified. Not surprising, the number one issue identified was degraded water resources. The collaboration we are currently engaged in to assess water quality is the first step at developing solutions to that issue. Next slide, thank you. Our team has identified water temperatures and its impacts on fish, mostly salmon, as the main parameter to focus on for the purposes of our assessment. At first, this metric seems simple enough to collect data on, but when you consider that the Kuskokwim River Basin encompasses some 46,000 square miles, an area roughly the size of Pennsylvania, the task becomes a real challenge. Coupled with the complex life history of salmon, which occupy close to 80% of the river basin, and use a variety of habitats, the question becomes even more intricate. Napaimute has been monitoring one small but important stream near the village for years, the Lowinger River. But this only provides us with one tiny but important piece of the puzzle. For instance, the temperature graph above suggests that our little river may provide a refuge for salmon as temperatures at other nearby streams begin to warm. Chinook salmon numbers on the Kuskokwim have been declining over the last decades, as can be seen in the other graph above. To better understand what factors may be significantly contributing to this decline, we need a much more comprehensive approach. We also recognize that in a warming world, profound landscape level changes are going to occur with our younger members' lifetimes. These changes will reshape entire ecosystems, decrease habitat complexity, and biological diversity. requiring us to consider and adapt to a new normal. Next slide, please. Although not a focus of our group, one of the issues that Napaimute identified as was changes to transportation and access. The critical component of this access is the safety and longevity of winter river ice, on which river roads are constructed and maintained. In some years, these ice road networks can be more than 350 miles long, providing critical infrastructure for the transportation of goods and the delivery of services at an affordable cost. Additionally, the structure of the ice can have significant impacts on flooding, as was evidenced by the catastrophic flooding at Napaimute this last spring, when nearly 2/3 of the homes were significantly damaged or completely destroyed. The charts above show that our winters have been getting warming, leading to localized midwinter river ice breakups, which then refreeze. This thickens and strengthens the ice in short river sections, causing ice jams and subsequently backflooding in unpredictable locations, which is precisely what resulted in the flooding we saw in Napaimute last spring. Next slide. Not all streams or even specific habitats within a particular stream will respond the same to a warming climate. The Kuskokwim River Basin is made up of countless lakes, tributaries, and side channels, and areas of groundwater intrusion with varying sources of water and physical characteristics. This complexity results in a patchwork of different but connected thermal regimes, each playing a critical role in the various life stages of salmon at different times. This is why our approach must be directed at answering very specific questions, which employ a standardized data collection protocol and a rigorous study design. Additionally, our approach should be scalable as additional resources become available or if new questions need to be answered in order to meet our stated objectives. Next slide, please. Napaimute is currently collaborating with many other monitoring projects and with partners from the EPA, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Alaska Department of Fish and Game, and the University of Montana. These projects will help inform our efforts and provide a bigger picture of just what is going on in our river and to our resources. We also need to apply and share what we have and will learn. By bringing our knowledge to the table and actively participating in the decision process concerning our natural resources, we will hopefully have better outcomes concerning the long-term sustainability of these critical resources. But achieving our future goals will only be possible by supporting and engaging the next generation of stakeholders, biologists, and leaders, so that we are providing them with the best information possible to make wise decisions about their future. That concludes my part of the presentation. Next, we'll hear from Teresa Hansen about water quality work that they've been doing at the native village of Telida. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Teresa Hansen, and I was the environmental director, and now I'm the project director for the village of Telida. As you can see from this picture, we live in a very remote region of Alaska, and villagers live a traditional subsistence lifestyle. We began water sampling in 2012 under an Administration for Native Americans Environmental Regulatory Grant. The idea was to establish a baseline for metals for the Upper Kuskokwim River region. The region of the Upper Kuskokwim consists of these four Athabaskan villages, Telida, Nikolai, McGrath, and Takatna. This region drains approximately 30,000 square miles of rivers, creeks, and lakes, and it has been called the most pristine river in the U.S. that's virtually untouched by human activity. That is why it was important to establish a baseline as insurance against any possible future development. We conducted water sampling at 10 sites along the river and near the four villages, 2 times a year for 6 years. We did 2 years under ANA and 4 years under IGAP. Metals were detected in water and sediment samples that exceeded the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation's 2008 drinking water standards, human health standards, aquatic life standards, and TEL values on the NOAA SCRITS tables for acute and chronic values. We found elevated levels of arsenic, cadmium, chromium, copper, nickel, mercury, and zinc between many of the sites. Now, unlike what we've been hearing in this summit for man-made things, all of these metals are naturally occurring, and they are results of geological processes. By collecting data twice a year, we were able to document baseline water quality conditions along the Upper Kuskokwim River region. This information may be instrumental in protecting the river from environmental degradation if there is future development in the river. Many of our source rivers come straight out of the Alaska mountain range and consist of glacial runoff. I know that you can buy bottled water saying that it comes from pure glacial streams. The glacial streams are anything but clean. They carry a tremendous load of sediment. We have been particularly concerned about our drinking water, which villagers take from the river. And here's a picture that shows just how turbid our waters can be. This is a natural condition. It's when it's in flood levels and spring runoff or heavy rains, it gets very, very worse. Our water sampling results have prompted us to do regional sampling of some of our most important subsistence foods, which are moose and blueberries. 4 years of moose tissue sampling revealed elevated levels of cadmium in moose kidneys in certain regions of the Upper Kuskokwim. Kidneys are a delicacy for some, and we had to issue a food consumption advisory for kidney consumption. It has been suggested to us that further work include identifying potential environmental sources for the metals that have consistently exceeded the standards that they've been compared to.
Thank you, Teresa. So we're going to show a video from Telida Village in just a moment here. But to avoid toggling back and forth in the screens, I'm just going to share with you guys that from our team, where we're hoping to go in the future, kind of our longer term goals, is that we hope to complete this water quality analysis and have enough data so that we can establish background conditions. We'd also like to use the data to bring more attention to the threat that climate change poses to the sustainability of salmon and other traditional foods. We'd like to foster an increased understanding and knowledge of the region and impacts to subsistence, work together to ensure success, and potentially develop a standard methodology for measuring river temperature that's scientifically defensible to identify any potential threats to subsistence. So with that, I'm just going to pause here and toggle my screen to share with you guys a pretty amazing video that Teresa and others worked to produce. And just as a heads up, as we get this video going, just be aware that I think it's the third speaker in it is quite quiet. So just know that it's not your volume settings that need to be adjusted or anything, and that the video quality will improve again, or the audio quality. So here we go.
The Kuskokwim River is about 702 miles long. It is the 9th largest river in the United States, as judged by the average discharge volume at its mouth, and the longest free-flowing river in the United States. It winds its way from its headwaters in the North Fork to where it intersects with the East Fork to officially become the Kuskokwim River, and continues south and east to discharge in the Kuskokwim Bay of the Bering Sea. As the primary drainage from the western Alaska Range, the Kuskokwim River and its tributaries are the heart and soul of life in southwest Alaska. The broad, flat river allows for easy transportation in summer by boat and winter by snow machine or dog sled, which connects us to each other and the outside world. As the Upper Kuskokwim region is rich in resources, which has drawn the eye of mining interests, one of our primary concerns is the quality of the water we rely on for life. So in the spring of 2012, Telida Village Council partnered with IGAP, ANA, and other Upper Kuskokwim tribes to begin water quality sampling to determine the level of contaminants in the water and their sources, and to establish the baseline.
The South Fork of the Kuskokwim River is important to me in the fact that it's a vital line for survival. People drink water from the river, especially in the wintertime. Fish come up the river, beaver live in the river, otter, a number of other species that supports the ecosystem of everything that life is made of up here. It's important to protect and monitor the river to make sure that there's no contamination.
Way back when I was a kid, my dad and my grandpa Dennis, they used to come from here to hunting the fall. They'd go up in August and come back and around about last part of September. They go hunting sheep and bear and everything, moose, caribou. And then down this way, coming back down, they said, watch it, don't put some kind of blood or anything, don't put it in the water. They said, it's no good. They said, be careful, the water is usable. So they said they don't want mass runoffs and too much in the, even the beaver dam, they saying it on the creek, and they don't even cut through it because it mess up the spawning area, they said, the fish. So therefore, they used to be careful.
The water is very important to us, the river, for the subsistent wildlife that we have here in the village, and I would never like to see it polluted. The water is very important to me because that's how we go fishing and we go to our fish camp and all that. And it's a drinking source of water for a lot of people.
The river is very important because we use the waters to fish, and if the water gets contaminated, it could affect the fish we eat. And people use the rivers to travel, to go from village to village, and something happened to it where it got cut off or not capable of having boats to go through it, it would be terrible.
It's a good example of a mixing zone between two rivers coming in the same. Up here we have High Power Creek, which has got the clearer water, and over here we have the Swiftfoot River.
Number one concern I have with water quality would be mining, future mining, if there was any. That's why I like the project. Know what's there in the river right now, so any problems rise later, we'll know.
With the strong partnership forged between our people in the Upper Kuskokwim region and the scientific minds behind the water testing, a cohesive baseline has been established for the quantities of contaminants in the water. Several of the leaders in the community have been trained in how to continue the testing and keep a watch on the resources of our lands and waters, continuing the stewardship of the lands and the waters in the new century. Alaska is our home and a place where we seek to live in harmony with the land that our ancestors inhabited. Joining modern technology with the subsistence lifestyle, the Upper Kuskokwim region can continue to flourish for many years to come.
So thank you all so much for your time today.
The Kuskokwim River is about 702 miles long. It is the
Pardon me. All right. So Maka or Mita, are there questions, or how are we doing here?
You're doing great on time, Mahri. So if you guys wanted to have a few more minutes to discuss, you have all the time that you need.
Were there any questions in the chat that we should address?
I'm just checking right now.
Well, I'll offer that I am really proud of this effort and of all of the tribes that are collaborating with us to try to get some good data put together. And we're looking forward to having more than just preliminary results, hopefully in the coming months, and we'll for sure be keeping the rest of the region informed as we know more.
Thank you so much to everyone that spoke on this panel today. We appreciate you taking time out of your days and your work to share. There currently aren't any additional questions in the chat. However, if you do want to pop over to the live feed, some may come in additionally, and you can continue the discussion there. And so with that, thank you so much, Mahri, Teresa, and Sam. We're just so excited to have you. And for me, I guess to provide a little bit of context, I've known Mahri since I think I was maybe a teenager. And I think back to the first time I attended TELS, I maybe was 15 or so. And I attended with my grandmother. My grandmother, Elaine Abraham, was a prominent leader and speaker, and I loved her so much. And my first introduction to TELS was being asked to give a youth keynote, I think, on maybe the second day or something. And I think we were in Juneau, Alaska at this. And so there's this photo of my grandmother and I when I was a teenager where we gave an elders and a youth keynote. I'm not sure if we're back-to-back, if we're on the same day, but I remember it's interesting to now be a young professional and being able to work alongside the people that have mentored me. So just to share that, thank you so much, Mahri,
Thank you so
and
much
everyone else. And we'd love for you to stay on and see the rest of the programming. And if anyone has any additional questions for the speakers, you can discuss that in the chat.
Thank you so much,
Excellent.
Maka.
Thank you so much. All right. So